And so if you're optimizing by that data, you're not going to take right decisions, I think, because you're optimizing by data that looks better than what it actually is.
All right, welcome back everyone to the PPC Mastery podcast. Today I am joined by another special guest, Caterina Mariani. She's a member of the PPC Hub, and she's also someone who is frequently sharing a lot of golden nuggets on LinkedIn. So it's my pleasure to have you on, Caterina. And before we go into your backstory and before I let you introduce yourself, I want to ask you real quick, what is something you believe about Google Ads that most people would disagree with?
Thank you for having me here. I'm so honored to be here and so thrilled. I think the thing that I disagree with most is that standard shopping can't be used with the PMax on the same products. I think it's a great combo, and using a standard shopping paired with a PMax feed only on the same products can be very effective in e-com, honestly. And most people don't use it, I feel like, and most people are like, no, you shouldn't do that, but I actually disagree.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's something I definitely would like to dive into. So let's see where the conversation goes. But before we do that, could you maybe in 60 seconds or so, just introduce yourself to everyone and just let us know how you started with Google Ads, where you are now in your career, what kind of clients you work for, etc.
So I'm Italian, but I lived in Norway for 7 years. I moved there when I was 18 and I worked in an agency and I learned Google Ads there. And then I wanted to move back, and in moving back, I became a freelance. And now I've been freelancing for 2 years and I work mostly with e-commerce clients, and usually like around 7-figure. And lately I've been really, really interested in getting more into like how channels interact together and, looking more at the overall strategy of an e-commerce ads, strategy. Because as we're going to talk about, if you just look at Google Ads, you're going to see a very, narrow picture of what scaling means and what growing in e-commerce mean.
Nice one. Yeah, so let's dive into that, because I know that you, from your posts and the conversations that we've had, I see that you're talking a lot about looking beyond just Google Ads metrics and really helping your clients with metrics that matter to them and trying to make real business impact and not just growing the Google Ads performance. And you said that many experts focus on the wrong details, so the wrong metrics, and that they should talk about they should focus on different metrics like MER, etc. Yeah. Can you talk about why you think that is so important, and maybe explain what kind of metrics there are that you look at to make a real impact for your client that are maybe different from the standard metrics that we see in Google Ads?
That's a very nice question, and I would love to talk like for hours about this, because I think that, when you look at the Google Ads interface, you're going to look at conversion data that's inflated. And that's because, for example, I was doing a bit of, I was looking at data in one of my clients, and just out of curiosity, I summed up the revenue that Google Ads showed and the revenue that Meta Ads showed, and it was higher than the actual revenue that we got in backend. And this doesn't take into account even SEO, where we're doing an amazing job, organic, social, etc. So the data that you see in both Google and in Meta is quite higher than what the actual truth is. And so if you're optimizing by that data, you're not going to take right decisions, I think, because you're optimizing by data that looks better than what it actually is. And why is that? The reason is that platforms obviously have their own interest in making in making the ROAS look high, making the data look high and nice, because you're going to probably invest more money, and that makes sense. I mean, the data is not objective, it's quite biased by the platforms themselves. And also they don't take into account the other touch points. So in Google Ads, if someone, clicked on an ad, and then maybe clicked on SEO listing, organic listing, or Meta Ads afterwards, Google is saying, no, I have the credit for that conversion. And Meta is doing the same. And so if the Google Ads specialist just looks at Google Ads, and if the Meta Ads specialist just looks at their account, they cannot possibly, do their best to actually scale an e-com and make sure that that spend is incremental so that it will bring to, additional revenue that would not have happened otherwise. And the metrics that I find fundamental, and I look at least weekly on my clients, are 𝗪, which is the total revenue divided by ad spend. And AOV is very important. I think it's pretty neglected in the Google Ads community, I would say. I don't want to be too harsh, but I don't think we talk about it often enough. And definitely also cost per acquisition of the client. That's so fundamental in e-com. And I feel the Meta Ads community is better at it, but I feel that the Google Ads community is, lagging a bit behind on it. And also fundamental to track is profit. You should know how much actual profit you made for your client and not just the revenue, because, scaling, knowing how much spend to put in each channel, knowing how much prospecting, etc., it must be based on the profit margins that you actually have, because otherwise it's impossible to, grow an actual business.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And why do you think that the Google community, the Google ad specialists, might be a little bit behind on the importance of those metrics when you compare it, for example, with Meta specialists?
I don't know. That's a very good question. I think Meta maybe, I don't know, honestly. Maybe it's more of an incremental mindset they might have. I'm not sure, honestly. But they talk more about new customer acquisition and such.
Yeah, makes sense. Maybe also because for us as Google ad specialists, we are so used to being in the bottom of the funnel, and we kind of take everything for granted because getting conversions is relatively easy. Not saying Google ads is easy, but with Meta, you have to fight for every conversion because you're interrupting people, stop a funnel. People are not looking for what you have to offer. So they have to think about those things. And for us, it's just oh yeah, they're already searching for this product, so they're going to convert anyway. That might be part of it as well.
I think so too.
So you mentioned the MER, AOV, your cost to acquire customer, and profit margins. What does that look like for you in terms of your analysis processes? How do you calculate those things? Like, for example, an MER is not available inside of Google Ads. Do you have access to clients' dashboards or backend systems, or is there anything that you create yourself? What does that usually look like?
Yeah, I do have access to backend systems. And so I just I just get the revenue, and for last week, say, and then I divide it by ad spend on Meta and ad spend on Google and ad spend on other channels. And so I get the MER. And all I do, I would really struggle if I would optimize the account looking at Google Ads revenue. I don't really, I look into it more as a diagnostic tool, but I steer on 𝗪, and I calculate it that way. And I have a Google Sheet, and I also check AOV weekly. And AOV is so important because then I can, there's a lot of talk about how to optimize AOV in e-com based on, if you can have bundles, if you can have complementary products, if you can have post-sale upsells, if you can have all of that, that's, in the interface of the website. But AOV is also influenced by the products that we push in on Google and Meta. If I have if I put more money on a specific item set on Meta or on a specific item set on Google, that influences AOV. And so there was a period last year when one client of mine introduced a cheaper category of products. And I saw the AOV went down on the back end. I mean, on my Google Sheet where I check AOV, and then I did a huge analysis. I did a big analysis on Meta and on Google, and I found out that category was being pushed a lot by both Google and Meta because it was having a very nice conversion rate and very nice ROAS, but it was draining down our AOV. And so then I removed those products both from Meta and from Google, and I put them only on one PMax feed-only campaign where we had 16 ROAS, an insane ROAS, of course, without the brand. But that way our AOV went up again, and our whole account wasn't, disrupted by this cheaper category of products. But we still could continue to sell them. And, that's how I optimize through, a more holistic way of looking at e-commerce.
Awesome. Yeah, I think more people should have that mindset of not only like, yeah, okay, I'm the Google Ads specialist, my ROAS is good, I'm fine. No, you should start looking beyond it to have that conversation and include the other specialists and as well with your talks with the client. Hey guys, real quick, if you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything in the future, and feel free to share with a friend, colleague, or family member, because that's the only way we can grow this show. All right, back to the show. But I feel like a lot of clients, not only Google Ads specialists, but a lot of clients are also just still super ROAS minded. Have you had cases where you had to actually educate them on different metrics to look at? Or is it always like the clients that you were working with already knew that those things are more important?
No, it's definitely a case of teaching. I do feel though lately, I don't know, maybe I've been lucky, but lately the client that I'm getting, I'm more aware of the fact that, they look more into their own revenue because they've been burned often. Like this client had spent a lot of money, like 40,000 euros on YouTube ads. And then they checked their actual revenue and they saw no increase. And there was a Google Ads rep that suggested them to do so. And so then they were like, wait a second, like maybe I shouldn't trust that much. And then now they're more eager to work this way, but I still have to educate them. So, and it's a lot of fun because like with one client where I worked for a long time, now they use the word 𝗪, which makes me very happy. And they also like when they purchase products, they also take into account, okay, but this is like, how would this influence AOV? And although, they also think this way, which is much easier for me to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you mentioned that. I don't know, the clients that I work with are usually pretty open-minded towards those metrics. But I think that's probably also because you are the expert who is talking about those things, so you attract those clients to you as well.
Maybe
because I think the clients that you attract with your LinkedIn content are usually pretty sophisticated with that stuff, because they either think that, oh yeah, we need to do more with those types of metrics, those really matter, or they already have that and think we need an expert who can help us execute on that. So that's probably why. And also, I think in the industry, more and more people are starting to wake up to this because there's much more third-party attribution tools now than there were, let's say 3-4 years ago. When I worked with one of my bigger clients a couple of years ago, they also had the same issue as you described. They looked at only the data from Facebook ads at the time and Google ads, and they thought they were super profitable because the numbers were just so good. And then they got the real numbers in at the end of the month, and they were they lost a lot of money, so they had to use a third-party attribution tool, but there weren't that many at the time. I feel like there's more and more tools popping up now, which is awesome.
I agree.
And you recently posted something on LinkedIn where you said that you wish everyone focused more on incrementality in 2025 and less on unimportant fluff. Can you just break that down for me? Like, what does unimportant fluff mean to you, and how do you actually get incremental gains for your clients?
I get so shy when I get like I don't know, reference to my LinkedIn content, but no, it's true. Like, I think if I have to be honest, like if you look at the Google Ads post or like what people talk about, it's not that much about say also prospecting or, looking at the backend data or talking about customer acquisition costs or AOV or lifetime value or these things that I'm talking about, which I think are the most important one, even in doing a Google Ads job, even in being a specialist. And I think people talk often about like, I don't know, minor details. For example, if you like on a YouTube campaign, the most important thing is the creatives. And I think the Google Ads specialists are not talking about that often enough. And I love getting to learn Meta more and that, world, because they talk about creatives much more than we do. And we talk about, audience and, other small things, which of course influence things, but or like a minor change in CPC they help, of course, but if you don't have the right picture in mind and if you don't have the right creatives, then you're not having the biggest impact that you could have. That's what I meant.
Yeah, Yeah, it makes sense. And I think it also goes back to how we, as Google Ad specialists, grew up. As you said, like, again, Meta, they are so used to, they always say the creative is everything. Especially with, since a couple of years, I know just about 10% of Meta ads, but I know enough from people who have, from experts who said that they just put everything on basically open targeting or broad or whatever it's called. I don't know the exact terminology there. And then let the creatives do the heavy lifting. But for us as Google Ad
Exactly.
specialists, as you said, yeah, we are so used to tweaking the campaign structures and negatives and excluding placements, etc., that we completely lose the point, which is better hooks, better offers, better storytelling in the creatives, etc. So yeah, it's not only in this case, I guess, for you, it's not only the MER and different data points, but you also have this mindset of looking beyond everything that is in Google Ads, like for example the creatives or landing pages, etc. So are there any other things that you do that you believe is just like really core to driving results that a lot of people don't really focus on now? Like, for example, when they focus too much on the unimportant fluff.
Yeah, like I would say a couple of things. And the first one is the looking at what other channels do. That's also very important. Like Meta influences Google Ads so much, and the other way around too. They do. I mean, when people buy a product, they often get more touch points. That's obvious, but we don't work in a way that acknowledges that. And so, for example, I made a campaign in Meta where I made ads just for one brand. And so there were catalog ads just about one brand. And I didn't touch anything about the brand on Google. And then I went on Google and checked after a couple of weeks, and the sales for that brand skyrocketed. And I didn't touch Google at all. And so I changed Google performance just by changing something in Meta. And so especially when you scale an e-com, you really should make sure that you have enough cold traffic in both channels and prospecting. And I think that's something that people don't really do. Like, people talk about retargeting in Google Ads and prospecting, etc. But then I wonder, do you know what Meta is doing? You know, if you make a PMAX, for example, PMAX are so dependent on Meta traffic. They're so influenced because they try to go at the warmest clients. And if you don't make sure that Meta is targeting, I would say in e-com, mature e-com, mostly new customers, and you don't have enough prospecting in Google Ads, and if you don't do this across channels, then you're gonna struggle a little bit. And also the creative part, like I'm editing a little bit some UGCs in Canva or dubbing UGCs in 11 Labs. Like, I think that's much more important than, looking at the most minor details in Google Ads, which I still obsess about sometimes, but not as much as before. And so if you look at all the channels together, you're also going to see what worked the best in Meta. And when you produce content, you can use it across, YouTube and Meta, Pinterest even. I'm testing Pinterest. It's very cool. CPMs are very low. CPCs are lower. Like just having a very, very cross-channel mindset. And also another thing is logistics. Because, I mean, for example, now on a client of mine, we have a MER of 10. And we have increasing revenue compared to last year in January. So things are going amazingly well. And I could push more ad spend. I could, push more in ad spend and getting more revenue back. If you have a MER of 10, that's usually the wise thing to do, because otherwise you're missing out on incremental revenue and profit.
Right.
But the logistics part of things is a bit, you also have to look into that, because we had so many orders from November, which was fantastic for this client. And so logistics is lagging a bit behind. So I cannot press more, I cannot push more. And if you have a synergy with logistics too, you really grow the business instead of just, looking at your own screen and the ROAS and the metrics that you see.
How do you do that then? Do you talk directly to logistics, or you ask your clients like, oh, how's it going with logistics?
I usually get updates from the client. But I also have a direct line with logistics, and I send sometimes some product analysis. And I send the trending search term report often. And so they were looking to, some more info from us marketing to inform their purchases. Which new products should we purchase, which categories? And so I send the, trending search terms.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I guess also to make sure that you have enough stock of the products that actually sell the most.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, ecom is this is what I always loved about the ecom game, is that you have to think about these things, which is can be challenging as well. But I think it's the people like you who think about these things are always like 2, 3, 4, 5 steps ahead from the rest. Because you have different conversations with your clients. It's not like, oh, we increased the CTR this month by 11% and we had so much impression shares. No, you're actually talking to them on a business level, like, okay, make sure you have enough stock of this product because the
Sorry, my Spotify started, so I got scared. Sorry.
No worries. And then you have different conversations with your clients, which we're also pushing now more in the PPC Hub with unit economics, the importance of that, the profit margins, etc. Because with e-commerce, it's just impossible to scale a product or a client with bad margins. So I think the more you can talk to your clients about these things, the better you will be able to serve them. But they will also be impressed because you talk about way different things than the regular Google Ads specialist who's only talking about impression shares, etc.
Exactly.
So speaking of reporting, how does that look like for you? What type of metrics do you report on? I know you mentioned the things here, but the traditional way of reporting is kind of like, okay, every month we send out this huge report with Google Ads data on how Google Ads performed this month. What does that look like for you?
I mostly so I have the main dashboard. I still send a monthly reporting dashboard. And the main metrics are the ones that I mentioned before. So it's revenue, ad spend, new customer acquisition, and I also put a couple of like traffic and impressions, just so they like to see that. And then I show how much we spent on each channel. And then I show stuff that I think is more important. So, for example, which products we pushed the most on Google Ads, which project had the most ROAS, which is still a useful metric. I'm not saying ROAS is not useful in diagnosis or knowing a little bit of what's going on, And so I show, which products have the most ROAS and which landing pages are had the most clicks. Something about the search terms, both from SEO and Google Ads, and also like from Meta, which ads are the highest performing ones.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So what I take from this is that you have a really like cross-channel mindset. You look at different metrics than just the things that we see inside of Google Ads. There's a lot of integration between Meta and Google Ads, SEO. You look at metrics like MER, AOV, cost to acquire customer, profit data. Is there anything else outside of these things that you think are really important to have conversations about with your clients?
I mean, with my clients, it's most the things that we talked about the most are about the creatives and the positioning. And that's very, very, very important because I mean, I don't directly go to, I don't know, UGC creators and ask them for UGCs, but I help them to have, the right content. And there's like, that was such a mind-blowing thing for me to, go into because there's so many opportunities right now I mentioned it before, if you edit on Canva, for example, which is a very easy tool, or if you, for example, test a little bit with AI and try to brainstorm about which other angles you could use, because often, we do have a very much bottom of funnel approach of things. We try to sell more and we try to get more to the last bottom of the funnel, but often it's much smarter to try to get people more, early in the funnel, because then you have that first click and then you're more likely to get your ads shown. Whereas everyone else is fighting here. But if you start here, that's much more of a smart strategy to me, at least. And so we test more creatives, definitely. And I try to push for getting more creatives and for testing more, creative angles and different pain points, and try to make more of educational content, which is higher in the funnel than just like, buy now, there's discount, etc.
Awesome. So yeah, Caterina, I think this was super valuable, and I think this is going to be opening a lot of eyes for people. So what I want to do now is transition into a few rapid fire questions. I'm just going to fire a few questions your way. Feel free to just answer with one word or give more context. And the first question is shopping, standard shopping or Performance Max?
Combo, both.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that in the beginning as well. So can you just maybe talk a little bit about how you combine those two?
Yeah. So what I do is a strategy that I really like is using a labelizer. There are many in the markets, and I'm using one from 𝗪𝘁 actually, who is a specialist that I work with. And when you get a labelizer, you get different. I mean, I think most know this, but different, like categories of performance of your products. And then I put a standard shopping for each category and a PMax read-only for each category. I don't do this for all the e-commerces that I have, but the ones that are spending enough, the quite mature ones, I think it's necessary. Because then you get the standard shopping to get more towards quality traffic and the PMax read-only to kind of retarget the traffic. And it's also like, a different tactic than what most do, which I also think is important in Google Ads, because it's also, what you do is influenced by your competitors too.
Yeah, interesting. I think I know the answer to this, but lead gen or e-commerce?
E-com.
Yeah, to be easy pick. Do you think Google is going to remove keyword match types in 2025 or 2026?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I think it's such a huge change for us that they're trying to be a bit careful and, trying to beat the bush. So I would say maybe 2026, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I notice how by framing the question, I said 2025 or 2026. But I mean, like, if you think that that they're never going to remove it, then that can also be an answer. So let me actually rephrase. Do you think Google is going to remove keyword match types ever?
They might, but it's going to take quite some time because we're quite used to it. And they try to make us decently happy, I would say. Like, they try not to get too much hassle from us. So I say in some years, maybe.
Have to massage it in first. But hey, maybe Search Max is the new, is the first step. Okay. Do you think Google is going to lose more search market share in the upcoming months or years?
Good question. Yeah, I think so. I don't know how much. I'm not as catastrophic as people saying, "Oh, Google is dying," because the data is not saying that. But I do think that they're going to. Search is different. I look at, like, my friends search for, I don't know, restaurants or info about products on TikTok. TikTok is kind of, and so I do think they're gonna reduce their market share. We're gonna change how we search, but I'm not as catastrophic as other people for now.
It's an interesting point because I think from the reports that they bring out on the search engine share or search market share, I'm not sure if they actually factored in social media, because I assume that if they did, I have to double check, but I don't think I remember seeing TikTok in the top 10. But that is huge. And I see it with my girlfriend as well. If we go somewhere and we're looking for restaurants or hiking trails in Cape Town, then it's just, looking on TikTok, and then boom, you see it immediately.
Exactly.
I'm not sure if they actually factor that in. And if they haven't, then the search market share should probably be a lot lower. Anyway. Okay. What's your favorite PPC tool at the moment?
A labelizer.
Okay, nice. And the last one here is, what is the best Google Ads advice you've ever gotten? The best.
Prospect more. Don't obsess over remarketing. Make sure you prospect.
Solid. All right, that's it for the rapid fire questions. I have one final question for you, Caterina, and that is, if you had to give experienced or beginner PPC experts one tip that could really improve their careers, what would that be?
I would like to say join the PPC Hub, but that's maybe too late to do it.
Thank you.
Let me say another one. Don't fully trust the platform. Remember that the data you see in Google Ads is from Google, and it's not, it's a little bit biased, and try to look more at backend data. You're going to make a better job, honestly.
Solid. Well, I think in this episode, people have learned exactly that. So thank you so much, Caterina, for coming on. Where can people follow you or connect with you?
On LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Okay. Everybody follow Caterina Mariani on LinkedIn. And thank you for listening, watching, viewing, all that stuff. Thank you, Caterina. This was awesome.
Thank you so much, Miles.
Catch you all on the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Peace.
Ciao.
All right, that's the end of this episode of the PPC Mastery Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you don't want to miss any future episodes, we're going to be back next week. Then don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend, family member, or a colleague, because that's the only way we can grow this show. Now, there's 2 more things I want to share with you. If you want to take your Google Ads game to the next level, the first one is, if you want to get advanced Google Ads tips delivered straight into your inbox on Mondays and Fridays, head over to ppcmastery.com/newsletter to subscribe to our newsletter called the PPC Edge. And next to that, if you want to really take your skills to the next level and become the best Google Ads specialist you can possibly be, then consider joining the PPC Hub, which is our coaching and community platform for experienced Google Ads specialists. You can find everything about it on ppcmastery.com/hub. And with that said, I'll catch you in next week's episode. Peace.